PowerPoint. Get it going. Thank you. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all the part of the world. And someone is moving, shuffling things around. I will probably try to mute you. Okay, thank you. We're so glad you to join us today with Global Chamber, Dallas Fort Worth. And we believe today is going to be a very informative day for everyone. Information that people talk about, but probably haven't brought it to the forefront. And so Global Chamber, Dallas Fort Worth, will be sharing with you all our esteemed guests that we have here today. And before I do that, I just want to pull up my screen, make sure you guys are able to see that. And there we go. So welcome, welcome, welcome again. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening in all the world, all part of the world that's going to be viewing our Globinar today. Please excuse the background. I am in the hospital here, and I'm sitting in the lobby area. So thank goodness for Global Chamber. You can do global anywhere. So again, that just shows you, no matter where you are, you're able to do Global Chamber. So wonderful. So today, what we're going to talk about, we're going to have some discussion about food insecurity. I want to make sure all my guests is here. Let me make sure. I didn't see Dede. Make sure Dede is here. Dede, you're going to have to say something. Oh, yes, he's here. I think he's here. Yes, I believe he's here. So what I'm going to talk about today is food insecurity. It's a global issue. Now, with our Globinar today, we are going to be looking for you all to participate. Participate either raising your hand, and if I miss it, please nudge us and let us know. Our panelists will keep an eye on that as well as putting a question in the chat. So as I mentioned, we're going to discuss food insecurity as a global issue, and we have three passionate panelists that are going to talk about it. And we say they're passionate, they're not specialists. So I don't want anyone to get confused thinking they are the specialists. We're very passionate about food insecurity. And so therefore, today meeting is about awareness. We're going to provide awareness. I'm going to introduce my speakers to you. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can share who they are and what they are to us as a global tribe. So first we have Zena Daniel. Zena Daniel is, she's hailing from Bermuda. Daryl, I'm sorry. Zena Daryl is hailing from Bermuda. She's an advocate for food insecurity. She doesn't need titles. She shared with me, I'm not a title person, but she's very passionate about food insecurity there in Bermuda. And she's going to share lots of information about that with us. She's a child of God who's excited about using her gifts and talents for uplifting of God's kingdom. She's a member of the Church of God of Prophecy. Zena has been active in various ministries, which include dance, music, and theater, and is founding member of the Christian Drama Ministry. Zena's professional life sees her having more than 30 years of corporate administrative experience, local and offshore. And what she failed to say, Zena Darrell, is that she is well known in the island and being an advocate for food insecurity. So humble as she is, I want to also introduce you to Zena Darrell. I want to introduce you to, he has on his screen Jean, but they call him Dede. And Dede is the Director of Government Affairs and NGOs at Tech Fides. I want to make sure I pronounce it right. He's commonly known, as I said to you, as Dede Mofiston. Currently serves as the Director of Government Affairs at NGOs and Tech Fides, an IT strategic consulting firm with a fervent dedication to driving positive change. He boasts on a distinguished career spanning nearly 3 decades across nonprofit and for-profit sectors in global connected landscape. And last but not least is Alessandra Barbosa. I love her name, so I try to roll it off my lips. She is from Cape Verde. She's 33 years of age. She holds a degree in international trade relations and an MBA in specialization in international trade from the Higher Institute of Business Science and Tourism in Portugal, with almost 10 years of experience in international trade and business, having performed functions in the public and private sectors. The platform she serves is a pivotal hub to connecting Africa to the world, facilitating business interaction, dialogues, and intra-African network. And now I will introduce myself, Stephanie. I will be your moderator. My name is Stephanie Austin. I am the Executive Director of Global Chamber of Dallas-Fort Worth. I have been a member for over 3+ years, probably 4 years, and been an Executive Director for 2 years. My passion is definitely food insecurity. Have been very passionate for a very long time in feeding the homeless, housing the homeless, but food, and it's not homeless, it's the unhoused, so just for correction. But food insecurity is very important, and it doesn't just start, or it's not only with people who are unhoused. There are people who are housed and still have some food insecurity. So today we'll talk a little bit about what food insecurity is, and we'll go from there. So let's pull this up. So the first question we're going to ask the audience, what is food insecurity? Please raise your hand or jump in or put it in the chat, whatever you deem appropriate. But what is food insecurity? What do you all think food insecurity is?
I would say my opinion of it is not knowing that there are going to be at least even 2 meals in a day. Like, I feel that it would be something where there's no guarantee of someone being able to eat
Okay,
every single day.
that's good. Very good. There's no wrong answers. Thank you so much, Erica. Anyone else? What is food insecurity?
Dana wrote something in the chat.
Dana, you want to read that for us, Zena?
Actually, I can't see it now, but I saw it come
Oh,
up.
Dana says lack of access to adequate healthy foods. Yes, Dana, that's good. Anyone else? Outside of the panelists, what is food insecurity? Okay. So as people said, food insecurity can be the lack of food, not having enough food, not having any food at all. Does anyone know the difference between food insecurity and food security? What's the difference between food insecurity and food security? And please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. Come on, you guys have to liven up here. I need you all to tell me. Okay, I'm gonna have to get my panelists to.
I mean, it's like having your needs met, right? For having numerous sources for local food, grocery stores, healthy options, but just you're feeling secure about your food. You're not worried about scarcity, I guess, as concerned about scarcity.
That's right.
I concur. I concur too, Jacob. And working in healthcare, and when I was working with the Center for Global Health Innovation, working out in the community, what we were able to also see was food deserts. There were different parts of town in Atlanta where there were not healthy food options. So I see that as an insecurity as well. So they may have access, but it's not good quality, healthy food for sustainability.
Very good. Thank you, Dana. Yes, yes. So when we always the age of technology looking up what is the difference between food insecurity and security. And when I looked it up online, it says food security is categorized as either high, no issues, or marginal, typically some shortage of food, with associated anxiety about sufficient food. That's food security. Food insecurity at the lower end of the scale ranges from low to very low food security. And so sometimes you'll hear people using them interchangeably, saying we need to address food security, which that's true. We definitely need to address food security, meaning that we need to have enough or better quality, as Dana mentioned, and then or food insecurity, saying we don't have enough. So sometimes you may hear them, our politicians, you hear other leaders talking about food security or food insecurity. Sometimes I think they believe they're talking about the same thing. So therefore, and they reference it as so. So that's what the difference is between the two. So I want to call my panelists to the floor. I need Zena to unmute Alessandra and Dede. And if you guys can let me know that you hear, and you guys can say something, at least so I'll know, say something. Zena,
Hello.
Alessandra,
Good
can you?
afternoon.
Hi, there you go. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So these are our three panelists. We've had a healthy discussion, I would say, last week in regards to talking about this food insecurity opportunity. And I must say, I was just very impressed on how the conversation went. So the question that we're going to ask is, what does food insecurity mean and how does it affect your community? So we talked about the meaning, how does it affect your community? So we'll start with Zena first. How does that affect your community? And let the audience know where your community is.
Okay, I actually hail from the island of Bermuda. Bermuda sits in the middle of the Atlantic. It's the only body of land, as small as it is, all of 26 square miles in the Atlantic, the upper Atlantic Ocean, because to be honest, the Caribbean islands are also in the Atlantic, but they're in the lower Atlantic. So we are the only landmass there. We're 684 nautical miles east of Cape Hatteras. And so, needless to say, also in Bermuda, all of our food supply, everything we buy from food, clothing, sundries, brick to build our houses, everything is imported because we are a small landmass. So for us, it's not a matter of food security versus food insecurity. It is food insecurity because everything comes in by boat continuously. We have 3 ships servicing us weekly, bi-weekly, and then 2 ships the other week. So without those ships, Bermuda, we will struggle, we will starve. And so for us, it is about food insecurity, and it's not it's about, I agree with the participant who said it's about having quality food, because cheap food can be found anywhere and anything can be turned into food. We're seeing plastic being turned into food for us to eat. So anything can be eaten, but is it quality food? Because not having quality food impacts us. It has a domino effect on the health and well-being of a human being. We're designed to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. So that's where I am, and as you can already hear, I am pretty passionate about this topic. That's my share. I would like one of the other panelists jump in now.
Okay, Dede, you'd like to jump in? How does food insecurity affect your community? And you can tell us which community you'll be referencing.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Great, wonderful.
Okay.
Yes, very well. Well, I'm in Collin County, Texas, United States. Many people might think, well, what kind of food insecurity you're going to talk about? We are in the United States, right? Well, surprisingly, here in Collin County, we have approximately between 9 and 10% of people at risk of food insecurity, which is probably close to 100,000 people, more likely. But I'm talking about just one county, right? Within the North Dallas area. And I'm not going back to the definition. Food insecurity, it is the same definition, I guess, everywhere you go in the world. Now, the reason might not be the same, the impact might be different. And here, I would even say the impact, it is in malnutrition, it is mental health issues, it is whatever else you might find in some other countries. Now, the reasons, this is where I wanted to go, might be a little bit different. People here, for any reason, they might lose their job. We have a good portion of low-income families as well. When I'm saying low-income families, people who might need to choose at some point to buy food or to pay the rent, right? Or to buy clothes for their children. And when they are going to buy that food, what kind of food do they have access to? So you guys remember when that COVID thing, a lot of people lose their income because of COVID. And a good bunch of them, while they were in a good level, or while they had a good level of income, they fall to that low income and at risk families. People losing their job. We have that group of elder people, disabled individual with some disabilities. You have children. All of those are the groups the most affected by food insecurity within Collin County. Now, what are we doing about it? What is the plan to tackle it? This is another discussion.
Yes, and another discussion. So we'll hold that thought because definitely want to talk about that as we progress in the conversation. So thank you, Dede. Don't give away the secret yet.
Stephanie, are you still with us?
Yes, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So we're just saying thank you for that, and we're gonna hold off on the solution because we're not here for the solution just yet, but love to hear other people ideas. So I want to get Alessandra to share, and I'm gonna pull up the PowerPoint here.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me? I think you can hear me, right? Okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure he can hear. All right, so Alessandra, I'm going to pull you up to the stage, and I would like for you to share with us in regards to Cape Verde Island. I want to make sure I say that correctly.
Yes.
And here you go. There you go. So would you like to share with us about one, how does food insecurity impact Cape Verde Island? And I know you wanted to share with the audience, give them a little background on food insecurity in a small island. So I did bring up the PowerPoint presentation so that you can share that. And then we're going to come back to Zena, ask some questions a little bit more about Bermuda, come back to Dede, ask more questions about Collin County. And so right now we're transitioning over to Alessandra to talk about Cape Verde.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you again, Stephanie. I am Alessandra Barbosa, originally from the island of Santiago, Cape Verde, located in the heart of the Atlantic Ocean on the West African coast. I would like to share my particular vision from a small island developing states where food insecurity is part of our history. So our archipelago has a generally hot semi-arid climate with rainfall mostly limited to the months August and September. Agriculture strongly depends on summer rains, which are highly variable, and in years with less rain, crop failure is common. So Yes, thank you, Stephanie. That's why our archipelago has been struck by a series of drought-related famines during 4 centuries between the 1580s and the 1950s. During these periods of drought and famine, tens of thousands of inhabitants died from starvation and disease. Two of Cape Verde's worst ever famines occurred in 1941 and 1947, killing an estimated 45,000 people. The hardest hit were the island of Santiago that lost 65% of its population. Several thousand of islands immigrated, and history says that the government of Portugal showed little interest in its African colony and failed to take measures to improve access to fresh water or supply food aid. So we can summarize this colonialist era as a first phase of our journey of food insecurity, which means not having food to eat. So this challenge influenced our revolutionary leader, the father of our nation, Amílcar Cabral, to graduate as an agriculture engineer in 1952 and to begin researching and work on solutions to improve access to food and its production. So in 1975, Cape Verde was proclaimed independent, and a new phase began in our journey to find solutions to feed the population. At this stage, food insecurity means food availability. So the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations was one of the main partners after Cape Verde's independence and supported the first national government to gain access to the new import and donation channels. Until 1991, the government had a public company focused on importing and distributing food. With the advance of democracy and the first multi-party election in Cape Verde, the company was privatized and the government became dependent on the import channels established by importers and international companies. Here begins a new stage that lasts until today, where food insecurity means food accessibility. Today, 2024, we have all these challenges and we accumulate new challenges marked by several crises and a lack of innovative public policies. Given the strong erosion of the purchasing power of families, particularly the most disadvantaged ones, since there was no compensation for the brutal rise in the consumer price index that occurred in the last 2 years, 17% of Cape Verde's populations lives under food pressure at this moment. Around 80% already in food crisis phase and almost 1% in food emergency phase. This information was provided at the National Conference on Food and Nutritional Security last year. Furthermore, data shows that 32% of Cape Verdean families still not have sufficient financial access, and 10% of the population suffers from chronic malnutrition.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Alessandra. I appreciate it. So I want to start ask some questions. I would love for the audience to be able to ask some questions also. And so one I want you to think about, Zena, is in regards to Bermuda. You did mention about the cost, everything's imported in. How does food insecurity impact the people? Are there a homeless population in the beautiful island of Bermuda? Does it impact the seniors? How does that impact the seniors? Same question I have for Dede. Collin County is known to be a very affluent county of people. And you mentioned there's about 9% food insecurity there. How does that impact? What does that look like? Are there people people in Collin County on the streets, or they're suffering silently at home, or what's going on from that standpoint? And the same thing with you, Alessandra. You shared all the information, food accessibility, availability, because that's what they think food insecurity means, is food availability. So does that mean food availability or lack of availability or lack of accessibility? So these are some questions I'd like you all to think, to be able to answer. And feel free for either one of you three to jump in on the question that I asked.
Ladies, if you
I have
don't jump in,
myself
I will.
muted.
Okay,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Zena.
I was muted. I'm so sorry.
Not a
Um,
problem.
well, one thing I can say is that this recent pandemic has really brought to the surface how vulnerable Bermuda is pertaining to food insecurity. I think before the pandemic, everybody, it was like everyone turned their head or didn't really pay attention. But there were times when it wasn't even a matter of food. Bermuda is considered like the third richest country in the world. Now, with that said, we do have poverty, but during the COVID crisis or immediately after the COVID crisis, our 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 unemployed rate skyrocketed above beyond most that we've ever seen here. In addition to that, um, because jobs dried up and went away, and some jobs still have not come back, people are having to readjust their living expenses. While we live pretty high, a high standard, that standard, we're watching it slowly be eroded away. And because of that, it means that people are no longer got the financial means to be able to afford a good, healthy food. Couple that with the fact that everything is imported, and we import a lot of our produce from the United States. It is really coming out of South America, but it's coming out of South America via the United States. And so our hubs are New Jersey, and there are two ships that come out of there. So when you find that there's less food, there's less income, people are not eating as well. We've always had homelessness, but the churches always seem to be the people that in the community that would address homelessness and mental health issues, because some people are homeless due to mental health issues. And so now what we find is that there are organizations popping up everywhere, and the big cry is, how do we feed and support these people? So what we're now finding, and we're coming to terms with as a nation, is that our homelessness means our homeless people are not eating as well. Because of our inflation, our senior citizens are not eating as well. Senior citizens in Bermuda, the average home in Bermuda for a single studio apartment is somewhere close to $2,000. So when you have people who don't make a lot of money, it's hard for them to have housing. So people are choosing between housing, rents, food, and of course, what do? They buy the cheapest things that they can find. And as a result, their health is poor, their mental health is poor. So this is something that we as a nation, and well, obviously we're smaller than a small town in the United States. So it's a lot to take on and grapple with. Trying to understand that we can't, and what makes it worse, we can't even afford, we don't have enough land mass to be able to grow our own good food. There's a question out there.
Yes, Dana, I see you have your hand raised, and then next, Erica.
Yes, thank you so much, Dina, for really bringing this concern with food insecurity and Stephanie to the attention for Bermuda, because like you said, it being the third largest, the third richest country,
wealthiest
country in the world, people would not expect that. And with us, having family there, being there ourselves, when we say food insecurity and cost, I think it's really more tangible when we put a number to it. So one apple costs me $2 in Bermuda. Okay, not a bag, one apple. One orange costs me $2. One loaf of bread costs $10. So when you look at it and you put a number to it, then I think you can see the challenge that the seniors have, the challenge that the unhoused have. And I wanted to also just express the appreciation for the correlation to access to mental health care. So if lack of access to health care is another issue for the mental health, don't you think it impacts them directly as far as access to food as well? So it's a question, observation. Dina.
Yes, it does impact. Food insecurity does have a huge impact on the mentally challenged, because the foods that they are able to access are processed foods. It's something, because this morning as I was preparing, I like to go through WhatsApps or have the television on or something. And this morning, one of the things that came out was that with processed food, the nutritional portions of are sucked out of the foods. So the fibers, the minerals, when you process food, you dry all that out. So if people are only eating those processed foods and they're low in in vitamins, etc., that help their body to produce the chemicals, and it's only the sugar-based things that break down and really rot the brain and our whole body, really, from a mental health perspective, they are now being deprived. So if they can only afford processed food or the cheaper food, then their mental health issues become that much larger for them. So yes, there is a correlation to mental health. And it was just so poignant that that came out this morning while I was preparing for my day. And I thought, oh, that's a point I need to bring up on our
Absolutely.
webinar today, because it is pivotal that we understand as people, we have to remember that our makeup, everything we need is in the earth. It's already here. So if that's being taken from us or is being deprived from us, then we are not functioning. Our bodies are not getting the nutrition for us to work at optimal strength. And that is why we could see more and more people living to be 100 and 120. But the food we're putting into our bodies can't process it. So because they can't process it, we are not healthy enough to live longer. And so our biggest problem in Bermuda is that our senior population is growing. I, believe it or not, I'm 60 years old. And when you do the average age in Bermuda is about 48. We don't have a lot of young people and we have a lot of older people. So I'm going to be one of those people out there in the not too distant future. And I just want to try and make it just even that playing field a little bit.
Thank you so much, Dina. Thank you so much for responding. And thank you, Dana, for asking questions. Erica, I saw that you had your hand raised. Do you have a question as well?
I do for Zena,
Okay.
but her point just about health and the correlation between good and bad food or processed food and fresh organic food is poignant, because with all the chemicals and all the adulteration that is happening with this food, that leads to cognitive decline as well, not to mention children are already starting to have major health issues if their parents or parent or caregiver cannot afford to feed them properly. So the fact that fresh healthy food should be so exorbitantly priced is tragic in my opinion. So I concur with what Zena's saying. But my question is, would it be more cost effective if produce and other food supplies are coming from South America, but they're shipping from the United States, if there was an agreement for import-export from South America directly, would it be more cost effective, or does it not change? I'm sorry, the question was way more clear in my head.
That it is a good question. And the answer would be that it needs to be investigated. Understanding, if you understand the dynamics of a small country, and I believe Alessandra might have a similar situation being an island nation as well. If you understand the dynamics of these nations, Alessandra spoke about the Portugal government, them gaining independence away from the Portugal government. Bermuda is still a dependent territory. However, we are self-governed. We have, although we are part of the crown, we are completely self-governed. So there's no participation by the British government. When you have islands that have had legacy ownership by other nations, there is a background of dynamics that has to be addressed. Most specifically, that the majority of the business community wasn't people that look like me, or they were very wealthy. And so those demographics all come into play when we're dealing with things like food security and the healthcare system, the care of the seniors, because the haves will always have, and they don't necessarily pay attention to the have-nots. So that's what makes it a bit more difficult. So while most of our groceries are owned by very wealthy people, and I will say that our most major grocery store is not even owned by a Bermudian. So what happens is they don't really take any care or concern about cost or where they get something from. So in order for produce to come into Bermuda, it has to touch 3 organizations before it gets on the boat to Bermuda. And so I've said all that as background to that. So when it gets to us, the cost of it is just ridiculous. You heard Atlanta talk about being here and paying the price. Eggs, when there was a shortage of raw eggs, were like $18 in Bermuda.
Wow.
You know, so you have to understand the correlation as to how difficult it is for island nations to get something. If I could just drive a car across to South America and drive it back, boom, it'll be cheaper. But then also, we are the 3rd richest country in the world. People look at that to be literal, and it's not.
So
right? Our GDP is high.
I want to pause this here because we have more questions for people.
Sure.
And I want Alessandra to Alessandra, I'm going to give you 1 minute. I'll
And
give you
Dede.
2 minutes, and Dede 2 minutes. But we have questions in the chat here that I want to also get to close to the end and allow people also to introduce themselves. But to me, this discussion that we're having is showing that there's a great need for more discussion around this. And we're going to continue this forum. I'm going to have it again in June, have some more people. I will say that bringing the awareness is the first part. The other part is bringing the people who can make the decisions to the table. And so eventually we want to bring some politicians who may have that as their topic of discussion or for their election year. What can they do? But we'll do more problem solving as we have more meetings and we take notes of what can we do. But as a global chamber, we're in 525 metros, 195 countries. Why would we not talk about this? Because this is impacting all of our executive directors and their cities of where they are. And so thank you so much, Erica. Thank you, Zena. Alessandra, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes and then I want to give Dede, and then there's several questions in the chat and I want other people to be able to talk and be able to introduce themselves. And then we'll talk about how to become a Global Chamber member, and then also later, how to be a part of the Committee for Food Insecurity. All right, Alessandra.
Good. And answering your questions, so I would like to remember Bob Marley lyrics that say, "A hungry mob is an angry mob." So I think this lyric can answer the question about how does not having enough food can impact a person's life. And in the case of Cape Verde, according to the data mentioned, 11% of our population is experiencing severe food shortage, hunger, at this moment, and around 1/3 are at the risk of food insecurity, with almost 30% of young people without a job. So this phenomenon has forced more than 20,000 young people to leave the country in the 2 years. So we need more
Interesting.
policies and
Mhm.
innovation. So this community for food insecurity can change our life and the person is expectation and opportunities for the future in our islands.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alessandra. I appreciate it. I want to go to you, Data, and to answer the question for Collin County, and then there's some questions in the chat that I would like to have people to speak to. Data?
Good. Thank you, Stephanie. To make it short, I think the impact and the on health and the impacted demographic group, I think here in Collin County, it is more likely the same thing as Zina highlighted earlier. However, there is something which kept my attention. Jacob, you said in the chat, group chat, that the food insecurity affect a big deal in the public school, which Erica supported. That could not have been better said. Yes, we have a big deal of food insecurity in our public school, and not only in Collin County, as you said, in the United States in general, right? Now, we talk here in the Collin County about a specific group, low-income families. And when you take those low-income families impacted by that food insecurity, you can just put not names, but we all in the country know who are those low-income families, right? They are minorities, Black, Hispanic, Latino people, or other minority groups, right? Now, we have a lot of effort within the Collin County. We're talking about NGOs partnering with local governments to distribute food to those people. We're talking about other kind of advocacy groups, but that is far to be enough. They don't talk about the real roots of the problem. And in United States, it might be a little bit different. And it might be somehow historic as well, because the groups, the affected groups, they have been the same group forever since the inception of this country. So this is another kind of discussion as well to make things a little bit more equitative, more accessible for everyone within this country. And it is shocking. Jacob, you're right. Erica, you're right. It's shocking. We are talking about United States and not anywhere in the United States. Stephanie highlighted it. It is Collin County, not any county within the United States. That's all
Absolutely.
from my side.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So the question, I mean, I appreciate all the perspectives that you all are sharing. The question I'm going to ask real quick, and then Jacob, I'm going to turn it over to you because you have several questions and we'd love to hear your questions. Do you think people are just desensitized to food insecurity, that we see people on the street, we may buy them a meal, give them a few dollars, and we think we've done our due diligence? Do you think people make comments of, well, you know, they should get a job, or do you think they just overlook it? And I'm not asking the panelists, I'm asking everyone this question. What do you all think? What are your all's thoughts? You got to unmute if you're talking because we don't hear you.
I mean, I'll chime in with a quick response. I think, you know, no matter what, if you're talking about, you know, food sovereignty, security, you know, climate, you know, I think a lot of people won't act until it's at their front door. And so I think that there needs to be connectivity. And I think that, you know, I saw this series of graphs about people's values changing over time, and starting in COVID, people's value in community development fell off a cliff. And so I
Mm.
think there's just a disconnect, and a growing disconnect. And I think it's when it gets at a lot of people's front doors, especially the wealthy, that's when they act.
And will it ever get to their front door if they're the wealthy?
Other people might get to their front door.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Jacob, you had several questions. Oh, go ahead, Erica. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. I agree with Jacob again on that point as well. And I also agree with you, Stephanie, as far as being desensitized to that. And what I feel strongly about is that people do not, I'm not going to turn this into a political discussion. However, I just feel that we have citizens of our respective countries, we have taken a more, we'll complain about things behind the scenes, but we don't really vocalize how we feel. And if enough people vocalize, something will have to change, something will have to be addressed, push the needle. And unfortunately, I feel that people have become like baby birds in the sense that they just allow politicians in this case or other people to feed them information without fact checking or doing research or standing up for their beliefs and not accepting what is pushed their way. And we have the power, but I feel like we've become beaten down where we feel like we don't. And it would take a lot of time and a lot of change and effort, but wouldn't it be worth it? Because it's not acceptable for an older person to decide how many times they're going to eat. Like that's not okay. Or children and everybody in between. It's just not okay.
Absolutely, Erica. And I appreciate you sharing that. And you're right, it's not okay. How many meals they're going to eat, whether they're going to buy food or their medication. There was a story at one time where I don't know which news media outlet followed an elderly person. They were buying cat food because they could not afford food in the United States of America because they could not afford food. But that's going to be another topic for another day. But these points are very valid, especially healthcare. And food insecurity impacts healthcare, mental illness. But however, there's also another issue of lack of insurance. That's another topic. I can talk about healthcare all day long because I've worked in it and I've seen how it impacts when people don't have. And you're right, Jacob, no one's going to do anything until they hit their front door. So what do we do as a global tribe? How do we bring forth this awareness? How do we make a difference? Don't have the answer today. However, I want to bring the awareness today. Some of the statistics I wanted to share with you all is about worldwide, we're at 2.3 billion people in the world were moderately or severely food insecure in 2021, 350 million more compared to before the outbreak of COVID, and nearly 924 million people face food insecurity at a severe level, an increase of 207 million in 2 years. So it's going to continue to grow. This issue is not going to go away. And Erica, I get it. We don't want to make it a political issue. I don't think food security is a political issue. People need to eat. It doesn't matter what what side of the aisle that you're on. If there's food insecurity, how do we address it? Because we should be concerned about our brothers and sisters. Texas data. I'm sorry, go ahead, jump in.
What I was just going to share with everyone on the call. However, whilst it shouldn't be a political issue here in Bermuda, we have an election next year, and we are trying to make it a political issue.
Yes. So when I say it shouldn't be a political issue, I'm thinking in the US, we shouldn't say, oh, well, the Republicans should do it, or the Democrats should do it. No, every political party needs to take part of this. This impacts everyone, regardless of what side of the aisle that you sit on. So definitely, Zena, yes, it should be a part of politicians saying we're going to make this different, make it better. Texas, the report shows that Texas has the second highest rate of food insecurity at 15.5%, more than 4% higher than the US average, which I did not know that. And I guess I should have figured that out because Texas is a huge state. 5 states in the United States can sit in Texas, 5 or 6. Bermuda says, the research says 11% of their population experiencing food insecurity. That's a high number. Cape Verde Islands, as Alessandra
Just
shared, 17% of the Cape Verde's population lives under food pressure. I'm sorry, was someone trying to say something?
sorry to interrupt, Stephanie.
Oh, that's okay.
I was just about to say, while Texas is the second highest food insecurity state within the United States, Texas is one of the richest states within the country as well. So again, this is kind of shocking. And
Yes.
finding the roots of all of this, it is again another discussion. And I agree with
Absolutely.
you, Erica. We should not have that as a political issue.
Yes,
Most of the
yes.
time it is, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Well, hey guys, we have 4 more minutes. Virginia has not spoken yet. She's put in several questions. Jacob, I'm going to bounce it back to you, but I wanted to get Virginia to chime in. Virginia?
I think I saw in the chat she left. Maybe she lost connection.
Okay, so let me just read the question that Virginia have, and we'll need a quick response. And maybe you should say, I would like to imagine there's some significant wealth disparity. Yes. It might be one of the reasons, however, the rich people need to eat also. So how large is the food production and the quality of food in the country are 100% imported? Most be very expensive. I'm not sure if she's talking about South Africa, Bermuda from that perspective. And Jacob, I'm going to let
She
you go ahead
must
and
be
ask your
talking about
questions.
Bermuda.
Bermuda, she could be. So Jacob, I'm gonna let you answer, and then we're gonna have a real quick introduction for people. And I would like to, if Doug or Cesar is on the line, I would like them to talk about the Global Chamber and introduce our CEO or our VP of Operation. Jacob?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking with Zena and also with Alessandra, it's like limited space as much as it hasn't proven to be very economic yet. And then there are a lot of lessons the indoor vertical farming industry is learning. Like, is that, I feel like if you're limited on space, that is something to explore. And, you know, what I appreciated about indoor vertical farming is, you know, I value local food more than something that's organic. And so I just was curious about if there was movement, thoughts about vertical farming in Bermuda, Zena, or Cabo Verde, Alessandra.
Yes, we've actually tried. There are some people who are working on like pilot programs for vertical farming, but Bermuda is expensive. Vertical farming needs electricity. Vertical farming needs water. It needs things that, and it's high intensive. So it is being tried, but so far no one has been able to make it cost effective.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you, Zena. If everyone can kind of drop your information in our chat, we only have 2 minutes. And so if I go round robin, we'll go past that 2 minutes. But what I would like to share with everyone in regards to the issue that we have here in regards to food insecurity. So one would say, well, how do we solve that? How do we make a difference? And as I mentioned to you, we're not here for solutions just yet. But what I would say, I'm trying to share my slide. Where did it go? Okay, maybe this is it. Maybe it's showing the screen. So you can only do this one piece at a time. It's a huge issue. We're not able to solve this on our own. We need more people to come to the table. However, I think the more we talk about it and bring the awareness and invite the right people to these type of meetings, the more traction that we'll get. We may eventually invite some of the prime ministers in Bermuda or some of the prime minister leaders in Cape Verde, in the US and Texas and other states. It's not just one, let's kind of talk about it. I know in Atlanta, the mayor is doing a lot of things in the Atlanta market. Someone's doing it well. What are they doing and how are they doing it? So the goal is to bring this awareness, have another meeting in June, which is awareness meeting again, and then see who's interested in being a part of this initiative in this committee of food insecurity, a global issue. So next slide I would like to talk about is what Global Chamber is. So I'm not going to read through that. We are a global tribe. And so when I say that, we really are. As I mentioned, we're in so many metros in so many countries, and we have over 700 Globinars that goes on throughout the year. And there's a lot of connections that are made. There's a lot of resources that are made. So being a part of Global Chamber and with it's beneficial. It's beneficial in regards for professional development. It's beneficial from connections and also awareness. And so that's what people gain by being a part of Global Chamber. Global Chamber Dallas Fort Worth, the advisory board. I'm the executive director, as I mentioned to you all. Ed Pope is our board chair. Jacob Deese is on our advisory board. Nelson is on our advisory board. Alvarado, Jeff Pappas is on our advisory board. And so is Dede Montefiore. He's on our advisory board. So you see, we have more slots available for people to be a part of Global Chamber Dallas Fort Worth Advisory Board. And it's just people who are passionate about sharing, whether what they're doing in regards to their works. We have organizations that are nonprofit that's part of Global Chamber and for profit, and how to make connections, warm connections. It's challenging when you have a business and when you're trying to make a warm connection. Let me stop that. When you want to go to a business and you don't have that warm connections for people to bring you in and introduce you to. So that's what Global Chamber is. So I want to introduce Doug Brunke if he's on, or either Cesar. Cesar, are you here? Our fearless leaders. You have to unmute if you're talking and camera on.
Hi, Stephanie. This is Cesar. I'm here.
Hey, Cesar. Cesar is
Oh.
our VP of Operations of Global Chamber as a whole, not just of a chapter. And he is our go-to person in connectivity, and he's a great executive leader. So passing the baton to you, Cesar.
Thank you, Stephanie. So this has been a great conversation. I think I'm coming from an island too, from Puerto Rico, and food insecurity is something that, is in an everyday conversation. And so I understand Sin, I understand Alexandra, because we are, we had a president in the US that said that we were like a big body of water and we were far, far away. And that was President Trump when we were, trying to get help back in 2017 and after the hurricane. So that's one of the island programs. And in our Caribbean conversation today, so we had a Caribbean conversation this morning. This was one of the topics that came up for us to follow up. So Stephanie, if you plan to continue on this, I will encourage or invite to maybe join forces and do something more aligned with the Caribbean at some point in the year.
Absolutely.
And so in terms of the Global Chamber, so we are here to help members connect globally with key people that might help them improve or increase their business, and we're doing that through warm introductions via email, or we're doing that through one of many of our roundtable virtual events. And so thanks again, Stephanie. I'm gonna put my contact details in the chat. And sorry, I wasn't really prepared to talk, but
That's okay.
but happy to be
all right.
here.
I always like to introduce our leaders. Anyone else have any last thoughts before we transition? I will be having another food insecurity, a global issue that'll be coming up in June. You'll see it, and I'm going to do it every other month. And so I'll definitely have the Caribbean chapter to join me on that conversation, because it's not just limited to just this small group. We need more people and more forces. Anything else before we end? Well, I want to say thank you, good evening, good night, and good morning, and truly appreciate our panelists. Thank you all so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences as well as the passion behind food insecurity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wishing you
Thank you
well.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.